What?
John Harvey Kellogg's winning.
You're listening to the Art and War podcast with your hosts, Mitch and Nathan. Mitch is a former airborne infantry squad leader who now spends most of his time coaching soccer. Nathan is a professional illustrator and an avid shooter with a couple of years of Canadian military experience. Together, they run the Seaburn art page. Enjoy the show.
Well, Mitch, it's been a little while since we've done a solo episode, and I gotta say, I feel like we should return to our roots with this one. I feel like we should open this up with some good old-fashioned fat shaming. So, I hand the microphone to you.
John Kellogg is the worst thing to happen to the United States of America.
Oh, are we diving this? Okay, I'm so fucking into this. All right.
I have lots of feelings about John Harvey Kellogg.
Yes. Wasn't he also responsible for a lot of circumcision? I think that was him. Or was that someone else?
No, he invented cereal, essentially. Well, maybe he didn't invent like actual cereal, but he invented like Kellogg cereal. And I'm pretty sure he put shit into it to prevent people from masturbating.
John Harvey Kellogg introduced circumcision in the late 19th century to the United States. That was one of his big things.
All right, so that's like the only good thing that he's ever done. Besides that, unless, you know what? John
The
Harvey.
agricultural revolution and its consequences have been disastrous to the human race. Sorry, go on.
Well, the whole fucking big cereal. Yeah, it was part of oh no, that was cornflakes. That was cornflakes.
Yeah.
That wasn't John Harvey Kellogg. So maybe he wasn't anti-masturbation, which made him a fucking that wasn't him. But
that was him. He was anti-masturbation, I'm pretty sure.
Was he?
No, we really should have dived this guy before we open an episode, just fucking dogging on him.
No, you're right. In the young United States, one of the loudest anti-masturbation voices was a Michigan physician named John Harvey Kellogg.
Yeah. And it turns out, yes, he also was the pioneer for cereal.
Yeah, but he also didn't like sex as a whole. He thought it was detrimental to physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being, and claims that he abstained from it despite having multiple women try and seduce him.
What?
Yep.
What?
That's what he claims. So it sounds like he just wasn't able to get pussy, and he's like, I'm anti-sex. Sex is bad because everybody else can do it except for me. Though I'm looking here, it's rumored that he spent his honeymoon when he got married working on one of his anti-sex books.
You know what? He practiced what he preaches. I can't even fault the guy. Yeah, actually, I can, because he did a lot of awful things. But
so I'm gonna read a quote.
Yes.
Sex with your wife is bad, but masturbation is even worse.
What?
He and his wife kept separate bedrooms and adopted all of their children.
I feel like we should probably tie this back into John Harvey Kellogg and why people are fat.
No, this is all John Harvey Kellogg.
I know, but moreover, how he invented cereal. But yes, he also really didn't like sex or masturbation, apparently.
Yeah,
he didn't like.
At least he knew that circumcised dicks were superior, though.
I feel like no. If someone's batting, that low, I feel like anything he says is bad.
All right, here is a new fucking claim that I didn't know that he. So I'm giving you all this shit because I want you to understand how fucking crazy this guy was. All right, so
I want to know. Fucking lay it on me.
So to ensure clean intestines, he proclaimed, this is a doctor, right? This is a doctor, a physician.
Yes, a doctor of science and also medicine.
He proclaimed that so he would make this it was just water and yogurt, pretty much. And he said to be healthy and to ensure clean intestines, that half had to be consumed through the mouth and half had to be consumed through the anus.
I mean, he's right, Mitch. Don't you know? It just meets in the middle and just cleans your whole system.
Oh my lord!
Goes in one.
This dude was batshit fucking
fucking
crazy.
Insane.
He was fucking.
Or maybe
wild.
there's something to it. Maybe yogurt enemas make you really clean inside, all squeaky.
Yeah, no, he was fucking crazy. But then, so like him and his I think it was his brother that made a separate He made a separate cereal brand anyway. And the thought process for one of them was that if they added sugar, that it would prevent people from masturbating.
We see how well that fucking worked.
Now, and once again, I want to emphasize how fucking crazy John Harvey Kellogg was. He suggested that for young boys, prepubescent boys, to prevent the urges of masturbating, that they thread a silver wire through the foreskin to prevent erections and cause irritation.
What?
And for girls, he advocated and even employed and did this as a physician and a doctor. Carbolic acid to the clitoris to burn it and discourage from touching it.
So, female genital mutilation, literal female
Yes.
circumcision.
This was an American physician who created cereal. It's still known today. Kellogg's is still a brand that is known today.
It's a huge brand. Like I ate Frosted Flakes growing up. I don't know if it prevented me from masturbating or anything, but we're not going to get into that.
John Harvey Kellogg was just... So why was he the worst person for, big cereal and making people fat? Because he was the one who started implementing cereal and sugar into like the first meal that people eat during the day. And from there, I think it was the 60s and 70s. It was after he died, though, where cereal started to be pushed as a healthy thing, where the most important meal of the day is breakfast. And in these cereals was just a fuck ton of sugar. And
Jesus.
over time, cereals became more unhealthy. And then they started even replacing like the natural cane sugar, which is still, it's not great for you, but it's better for you than like the artificial
high fructose corn syrup that we all have these days.
Yeah. And, when you start pushing breakfast as the most important meal of the day with cereal, it started there. And then you started to see like fast food chains pick it up and like McDonald's. And now, it's not just a breakfast sandwich you get from McDonald's. Let's say you get a McGriddle. It's high fructose corn syrup, maple syrup injected into really terribly made bread that is borderline cake. And it's loaded with fucking sugar with a sausage and an egg on it and cheese. And they're like, yep, this is your breakfast. This is healthy for you.
Oh, that is terrible.
It's just contributed to the disgusting, obese, fat fucks in this country.
Oh my God. We do a lot of, I want to say one of the recurring jokes in this podcast is fat shaming. And like, again,
it's not a joke. I hate fat people. I don't respect them. I do not respect them as people.
Well, again, I will stand by the fact fat is a mindset. It's not like, again, to clarify, to me, a fat person is someone, they can be 130 pounds, but if they're sitting on the couch all day and they're doing fucking nothing, I don't respect them. I almost feel bad for people who are kind of caught in this recursive loop, because I think back on, my high school days and junior high and everything, and seeing people who are taught that this is okay. That, you eat this and you eat this and you eat this and it's part of your balanced breakfast, and breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and your biggest food group should be wheat and processed food. And, you go to the grocery store and you look at, what were you saying, Mitch, the other day? You bought a can of peas and you looked at it and it had high fructose corn syrup in it. It's in everything.
There's go into your fucking cat. Things that you don't think like sugar or high fructose corn syrup and all these other ingredients like would be in. It's in. And I don't understand. Yeah. What was it? It was something stupid like 17 grams of added sugar in a can of fucking peas.
There was no point. There's no point. They're fucking peas.
No, you want to know what the point is? Sugar is addicting. I was talking about this the other... This is the Mitchell schizo fucking rant.
No, I love it. I love it. Please.
So I'm good friends in real life with this guy who... he owns an Orange Theory fitness studio. So he's, you don't have to be into fitness to own one of those studios. That's not what I'm trying to claim, but he does happen to be, into fitness. And we were talking the other day, we play Warzone a lot. We were talking the other day about how crazy it is that our brains will tell us we need sugar or we're going to die.
Oh, 100%.
It's crazy how like our brain is our worst fucking enemy with it. But after you've been consuming, sugar as a staple in your diet since you were a fucking child, because what do you put in front of a kid for breakfast? Something quick and easy. It's cereal. So their brain gets used to it. And as an adult, a couple of years ago, I started to make like a conscious effort to consume less sugar and less, artificially made sugar. And even to this day, I will get those random sugar cravings where it'll be like 11 o'clock at night. I've already eaten whatever I needed to eat for that day. Like I feel good. I feel fine. And like I'll have these cravings for like something really sweet. Like I can never like, it's not a specific craving, but it'll be like, oh, like I need to eat something. And then like the first thing like I'll go for if I'm mindlessly going through my fridge will be something that has that sugar or has that artificial sugar in it. So something to combat that he helped me with was getting like as dark of a chocolate with a high or cacao content that you can. I think the highest I was able to find was like 96%, and it's very bitter, but I like bitter chocolate as it is. So I'll keep little squares of it, like, a couple, like a thumbnail size. I'll keep little squares of it in the freezer. And whenever I'm having those cravings where it's like, what the fuck do I need to eat? I found out that that's just your fucking brain saying you need to consume sugar. You need sugar or you're going to die, is what your brain is sending all these fucking signals throughout your body. You need this sugar. You're going to die. Go get something sugary now. Yeah. And he told me about that little dark chocolate with high cacao content, and now I'll just have like a square or two of those, and there's not even a lot of sugar in that because it's a very bitter high cacao content chocolate. There's not a lot of sugar in it, and the little sugar that is in there I believe is natural and completely gets rid of that craving. And I'm trying to get to a point where I don't have those cravings anymore. And like I said, I've been making a conscious effort for the last like couple years to cut down on any added sugars, any artificial sugars. If I do consume sugar, it's like it's natural. So like if you're eating fruit, there's natural sugar in it. I'm not saying that's bad. I'm not saying all sugar that you can get is bad. Sometimes I'll let myself eat something that has like cane sugar added to it. But for the most part, I try to avoid anything that has added sugar. And we were talking, you and I were just talking about this. Was it yesterday? Yeah. I told you I go to the Scandinavian bakery.
Yes.
And they don't add sugar to their bread.
That's good.
It's great.
You would figure that would be most places, but that's really good.
Well, you think too. So on top of like fucking portion control, everybody's like, carbs are bad. Carbs make you fat. Carbs make you fat. In America, that might be true because the carbs here all have a ton of added sugar.
Of fucking sugar.
Right, but if you go to a country, I lived in Europe for a couple of years. If you go to a country like Italy, where carbs is the staple of the fucking diet, or France, where like these rail thin models will only like consume multiple pieces of bread a day, they can do that shit because their carbs are not the same as American carbs. And also, obviously, portion control. Americans like to eat a lot, but the people in those countries, on top of that portion control, those carbs don't have all of these added sugars and bullshit. And that's why I go to the Scandinavian market, because they make their, they grow, for starters, they own a farm where they grow all their own shit that goes into the bread, and they don't add sugar in it. It's fucking delicious bread. It's very, very inexpensive. And they're very nice, tall, they're very Scandinavian. Like if you look at them, they're tall, blonde hair, really thin. Fucking the women are fucking, they're not yoked, but they're really fucking toned, and they just bake bread and they're super friendly. I love going there. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
But yeah, John Harvey Kellogg started. So I looked it up. He was the co-founder of Breakfast is the Most Important Meal of the fucking Day. So this happened.
Oh, that motherfucker.
This happened in the early 1900s, not the mid to late like I thought. So when you start having breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and he was a physician, he was a fucking crazy physician, but he was a smart one. He knew how the brain reacted to sugar and how it craved it once you started giving. It's kind of like caffeine. You have this addiction to it, right? It's the same thing. Your body tells you, I need this caffeine or I can't function at a high level, which isn't true. as we both consume caffeine today. But
Yeah, I literally have a rain in my hand right now. I
Yeah.
just actually did a caffeine cleanse for
so did
a
I.
little bit because I caught myself. My brain was telling me you need caffeine to function, so I just cut it out. As soon as I start to feel those cravings, I just don't do it for like anywhere between 3 days and a week.
I think I did 2 weeks. That ended. I told you when it ended. I think it was last week. I think I
Yeah,
did
yeah.
2 weeks. Yeah, but anyways, he was a physician and he knew how the body reacted to sugar and when you became addicted to it. So they started adding fucking sugar into everything because when you're addicted to something, you go to a store, you're like, I need to buy this. I need this cereal. And they say that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So I need this cereal in order to be healthy. And it's just loaded down with sugar and it makes you addicted to it. And it's fucking, he's a dickhead. John Harvey
He's
Kellogg.
an absolute dickhead. It was, well, you know, Mitch, he was right. We gotta keep the kids from masturbating. It's bad for you. You can't have sex with your wife either. See? No, he's just, chasing righteousness and cutting off the tips of people's penises, I guess.
Dude, he
Including
wanted.
yours. You're a victim of. Now I see why you hate this man so much. You are a victim of John Harvey Kellogg. He stole your foreskin, Mitch. You're never getting it back.
For starters, I have a superior penis because I don't have a foreskin. But
Oh god, I heard an awful joke. I don't know if I can say it on this podcast.
say it on the
Maybe
podcast.
we just get BR to cut it out. But I will preface this with, Mitch, why does your Jewish wife like your penis?
I don't know why.
Because it's 20% off.
I'm gonna have to tell her that one.
I don't know if we should keep that in, but I had
tell her
to.
that one. Hey, do you guys like war belts? Well, let me tell you about a super high military grade Army spec war belt from one of our most near and dear sponsors, Advanced Warfighter Solutions. Not only are they super high military grade and quality, they are also civilian grade and quality and actually really fucking cool belts. I highly recommend that you get one. I've been using mine for years, even long before AWS has been a sponsor of this podcast. So if you use code ARTandWar10, you can save some, I think it's $10 off of AWS SMU warfighting belt. We don't get any kickback from that. You just save money, and they're an awesome company that also contributed to Nathan's iPad fund because he needed a new iPad. So good for them. They're really cool. Thank you very much.
Thanks, AWS.
Hey, this is Mitchell with Seaburn Art. Did you know that we have a Patreon? We do have a Patreon, and there's a ton of cool things there. Super cool things, and Nathan's going to tell you about them.
Hey guys, Nathan here from the Art and War podcast, here to tell you about Patreon. There's a 24-hour Korean massage parlor several blocks from my house, and I go there for happy endings. It gets pretty expensive, and I need you to donate me money so I can continue to serve my dark addiction.
Not only can you help Nathan get hand jobs from Koreans, you can also help us continue to improve the quality of content that we do. You get merch now after a couple months of being a Patreon subscriber, which is cool. We also have stickers, and we also have high-res downloadable targets that you can download, send to Staples, and get weird looks when you print them out to bring them to your range and shoot. Also, all of our guides are downloadable, high res, so if you want to print them out and make a cool little book, yeah, you can go for that too.
You can find our Patreon via the link in this episode's description or in the Seaburn Art page's bio on Instagram. Now let's get back to the show.
But I kind of want to circle back to two things. One, I forget. The second one, comparing America to Europe in terms of just obesity rates and whatnot. Because you're absolutely right. You know, you look at the ingredients in the same products that are being sold in America and overseas, and there is one thing that is missing. It's usually the high fructose corn syrup or the sugar or anything like that. But something, and I was in America only a couple weeks ago, didn't really talk about it very much, but I had this rant with you. I didn't really have it, on here yet, but I have a lot of reservations about America's car-dependent infrastructure. And it is something I've never seen anywhere else. I mean, it exists in Canada at a small degree. And, still, America number one. Going to America, I'm not going to fucking dog your country. But holy shit. So where I was, and it seems to be this way in a lot of America, and, everyone I've talked to has been like, oh yeah, this is the norm. This is, with the exception of people who live in cities, but you can't not have a car. And that's okay. Like I do think having the means of transportation, especially, individual transportation, is really important. But there's no infrastructure to allow you to not have a car, and walking is kind of taboo. So, I had a car, I had access to vehicles, etc. But, the grocery store was a half hour away. Throw it in a backpack and walk, because that's what I do. No one walks these days. And, I get a little bit of sunshine, get a little bit of exercise. There weren't sidewalks. I had to walk down the freeway. It was weird. I did it fairly often, just walked around the neighborhood, and Google Maps was taking me through like weird back alleys, behind buildings, behind a Kroger or whatever it was, things like that. And, I asked, people I know and respect very much, and they said, yeah, no, people don't walk. No one walks here. I asked someone if they want to walk with me, and they go, no, I don't want to be seen walking. Like, it's a social taboo. If you walk, you're homeless. And that's not something I've seen anywhere else in the world. And like, I understand that it's cultural. I think BR mentioned that, it was an infrastructure created out of, did he say Arizona? Maybe I was misinterpreting what he said, but it's an infrastructure that is very modern. I'm, in a country where there's a lot of old cities, so there is pedestrian infrastructure. And I'll catch myself, like I got to go to the grocery store. It's a 5-minute walk away, but it's a 30-second drive, so I'll just do that. No, I should fucking walk. It's not hard. In America too, everything, you want to go to the pharmacy, there's a drive-through. You want to go to the bank, you can talk to tellers through a drive-through. I'm not going to dog that. Like, someone who is on their lunch break and whatnot, like they drive through a bank and they talk to the teller and they go back to work. I think that's a great idea. I think I'm never going to dog modern conveniences for just existing. But as with all things, I think health is a conscious decision that you have to make about yourself. You have to go like, oh, there's an escalator, there's stairs. I'm going to take the stairs because I haven't really done much today. Hey, the grocery store is a 5-minute walk away. I'm going to walk there. Because you genuinely, from what I saw, you can live your entire life without leaving your car, your desk, or your couch. You can like walk to the car, go to work, leave work, have your groceries delivered to your car, go to the bank, go to the drive-through teller, basically live your entire life, go right home, get your microwave dinner, sit on the couch, and fall asleep. And that is how so many people live their lives.
Yeah, and there's definitely some places where it is more geared towards not having a car. New York City, for example. I mean, you can have a car there.
Oh, yeah. In the big cities, it's like, I don't know anyone in New York or Toronto or anything like that who has a car. Not including Los Angeles. Los Angeles, you need one.
Yeah, my same buddy who owns that Orange Theory, he had a Tesla for like 2 years, but it's in New York City, and he just got rid of it. And he's like, if I have to go anywhere further than I can walk, like I'll just Uber or I'll take the train. So there are some places that are set up, to be more, and they have to be. I don't know if that's their reason. It's to make people walk more, or if it's more just by design. That's one of the perks. I'll call it a perk because I think walking places and that stuff is good for you. But then there's some places in Middle America where it's like 20 miles to a fucking grocery store.
Oh yeah, there's no two ways around that. Like you have that out here even.
Yeah, but that in between that you're talking about, where it's like, yeah, I mean, it's we even did it the other day. There's a park about 10-15 minutes from us, like walking.
Yeah,
it's like a 3 or 4 minute drive.
Yeah,
and the
irony of having to drive to a place to go for a walk is not lost on me.
Yeah, so we were like, well. The cool thing about where I'm currently at, though I am moving soon, there is a park, and it's not like the traditional there is like the playground, like the kid playground, but there's like a nature park where you go. There's like hills. You kind of go in the trees for a little bit, attached to my apartment complex, which is pretty nice and convenient. But for the park that we were going to, it was more like a traditional park, like a playground, a field, things like that. And we walked there, and like, it was a beautiful day, and there was nobody else really walking out there, and it was just kind of funny. And then We got there right before like kids started to get off of school, and then we just see a bunch of parents pull up in cars. And I don't know how far away they live, so I can't really judge. But it's definitely true that we do make things in America, at least. Things are way more fast and convenient because we did it under a guise that like we're always so fucking busy. Like we need to save these extra seconds in as many different places as we can, going through a drive-through or, driving, 2 minutes instead of walking 10 minutes. And I think at one point that was, kind of the case, when we were building and going through all of these stages of growth, and you had to assume that everybody was doing the most important thing. But nowadays it's more about the lazy approach and how can I get to, go outside as quickly as I can and then get back to where, I reside and where I live to do nothing.
Yeah.
And it's not like that. You lived abroad. Where did you live again? I remember you lived in a lot of different places.
I've lived in a couple places. The coolest one that people always have the most questions for was Abu Dhabi in the United Arab Emirates. This was a little while ago.
Why did you live in these places again? I never asked you.
So my dad, I don't want to dox myself too much, though, anyone who cares enough already knows who the fuck I am. My dad's a professor at a university. Was, anyway. He's retired now. Every 4 years, he would take a sabbatical.
Shocking. A smart Chinese man.
No, he's the white one, actually.
Oh, I take it back.
Yes, no, he's very white. He's probably about as white as you can get. I'll show you a picture at some point. And every 4 years, he would take a sabbatical, and he would go and take a contract for just a random university. He'd go teach abroad for a little bit, and we had the option of going with him or not. So I spent a year living with him in Abu Dhabi, about an hour outside of Dubai, if that gives people a... So on weekends, he was a busy guy, and he'd leave me alone for like hours, days, I think at most a week at a time. And, my young developing brain found the internet, which was still young and burgeoning. I think it was like a 36K connection or something like that. It was worse than dial-up. It was pretty bad. But we drive into Dubai every weekend, and that place was just depressing. I don't have a lot of good memories from Dubai. Wouldn't really recommend anyone goes there unless you're into that, I wouldn't really recommend anyone goes to Vegas either, and unless you know exactly what you're going there for. But it was just consumerism. It was the weird, like, celebration of excess that even, as a young person, it really hurt my brain.
Well, that's what I know. A lot of athletes will travel to Dubai, like in the off season, and it seems extravagant. Like, it's the most over the top.
It's really extravagant, but it's really weird how it's laid out, in the fact that you'll have, walking down the street, you'll have a Rolex store, you'll have, Gucci, Prada, Louis Vuitton, all this stuff, and you'll turn a corner and there's like a Bangladeshi worker slum full of expatriate workers that probably have had their passports confiscated and haven't been paid in like 6 months to a year, just kind of milling about. It's super, super weird. You'd have really weird, intense, wealth and celebrations of wealth, and, consumerism, and, displays of wealth. Like this place is the desert, and every roundabout, which is basically every major intersection, the whole city's built on a grid, and every grid has roundabouts at certain points. They'd have fountains in it, and like big gold gilded statues and palm trees that had to be... It's the desert. They have to be kept alive by an incredibly expensive irrigation system. And then you turn the corner and there's just a slum. And it's the weird dark underbelly that people kind of want to forget about. Also, some guy tried to fucking abduct me. I was young. I was like 12, 13.
Wait, what happened with that?
Oh yeah, no, I guess I never really talked about this publicly. I think like a handful of people know, but I guess all the fucking listeners of the Art and War are going to find out. I was walking home from school. My dad kind of gave me free rein, so I basically did whatever. Like, I had a very independent childhood, and I think it was good in most ways, but in this case, maybe not in a foreign country during the War on Terror as a white-looking kid. Bearded man, didn't speak any English. Like, kind of violently pulled his car up next to me and tried to make me get into it, and then tried to push me into it. And I just pretended I didn't know what he was talking about. It was broad daylight.
Dude, he was about to fuck your mouth.
Probably, actually. No, it's either fuck my mouth, cut off my head, or both. Because, yeah, it was... he was very forceful about it, but it was broad daylight on a major street. And, I told him I didn't speak any Arabic, and, walked away, waved my ruler at him for whatever reason. I was carrying it. And he didn't want to see it, so he got back in his car and he sped off. But holy fuck, that is something I haven't thought about in a while. But
yeah, I asked my dad about it like years. Not my biological father.
yeah,
I would go and spend like a Friday to like a Sunday afternoon with him when I was younger. So my father would go to the post office every like Friday afternoon. So he'd pick me up from school, and that was the beginning of like our weekend together. It was like every other weekend. And he would go to the post office, and I would just sit in the truck. And he went in there, and this dude, I remember like laughing at him, but I was like 7 or 8 years old. I don't know why I laughed at him. I have this problem where like I'll laugh at people when it's like an intense situation, and like it's intense with me, not like intense for someone else. But if it's intense with me, like I have this problem of like laughing. And this is like the earliest memory I have of that. I was like 7 or 8 years old, and I'm sitting in the passenger seat of this truck. There were no phones, so I was just kind of sitting there doing whatever we did before, we had phones and we had free time.
yes, reading a book. I don't know, just
yeah, I don't remember what I was
twiddling
doing.
your thumbs.
Just sitting there. And this dude comes up, and I see him walking over, and I'm just kind of looking at him, and like we're making eye contact. I'm like, all right, whatever. Like I'm a kid, whatever. He comes over and tries to rip open the door, but it's locked.
Oh, what the fuck?
Yeah, and I kind of look at him, and I kind of am like, huh? Like I don't know who this person is. Like I don't know who you are. And he pounds on the glass, and he's like, open the door. And I just kind of looked at him and smiled, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, I don't know you.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and then he tried banging a couple more times, and he might have cursed or whatever. But yeah, then he just kind of like ran away. And I remember, so
if you ran away, he was up to no fucking good. I mean, everything
no.
else he's up. Yeah.
So we're getting to this.
Yes.
I asked my dad about it. Because, like, I never told him. Like, my dad just got in the vehicle, and it for whatever reason, I'm like, yeah, I'm just not going to tell him. Like, I don't know. I was a young kid. I didn't say anything.
Kid, yeah.
So a couple of years ago, I'm an adult, and I'm like, hey, so, and I told him what happened. And he was like, yeah, no, that was my friend. I asked him to do that to see, like, if you would open the door or not. And I'm like,
Ha!
I'm like, that can traumatize me.
Yeah,
like,
and he never brought it up.
No, he didn't say anything like after he didn't say anything.
Now he knows too that there's this weird silence about you almost getting abducted and just not saying anything about it.
Yeah, but like I thought for the longest time, I'm like, yeah, I mean, I guess I almost got abducted one day. But he was kind of like that, my dad. Like if we were at home, it would be like 1 a.m. He would set off the fire alarm to see like if I got up and like, yeah, it was weird.
I respect that though. Like I respect the keeping you on your toes kind of preparedness mindset. And you turned out pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I turned out fine. None of what he did actually.
I mean, you might be circumcised, but whatever.
I mean, superior.
I'm not going to hold that against you.
He didn't, like I said, it didn't traumatize me. Like, I don't know what like 7 or 8 years old that happens. I literally, like I said, I have this problem where like I'll laugh in these situations. My first fight in middle school, it was in a gym locker room. We played fucking intense, like as intense as a middle schooler can play like sports. I don't know about you in like growing up, but we would play like floor hockey, and we had this old school gym teacher, and he would let us body check people, and it would turn like intense. And then the gym teacher would host, like if you had a problem with someone, it'd be like, all right, we're going into the senior locker room, fucking hash it out like fucking men. And he would like officiate and make sure nobody like died.
I respect that so much. And, I feel like people are not going to like this, but I feel like
he was a great gym teacher.
Yeah. Like kids would be a lot better off if that was the norm. Just, figure it out. No appeals to authority, slug it out with each other, no lasting damage. And, everyone shakes hands and hugs at the end of the day and you're all friends.
I won't say his name. He
Yeah.
passed away when I was in 11th grade. It was incredibly sad. But
Yeah.
he, I believe it was in the 60s and 70s, was a really, really good middle linebacker for Syracuse University. I think it was the 60s. It might have been a little later. But he was a really good linebacker for Syracuse. And he was old, and he would play like oldies music like during gym class, like really old, like Run Around Sue and all these other things.
Oh, I
And
love that shit.
yeah, and we would play sports, but he was all about contact with them. And then like he could tell when tension was brewing. And he would literally go he'd be like, bring it in the senior locker rooms. There's no fucking cameras. And he would officiate and make sure nobody got like ever like seriously hurt.
Yeah.
But he didn't know. Well, he recognized there's some tension between me and this kid who was much bigger than me. I was a small kid. I was like 105 pounds.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw photos of you growing up. Like
I was
you
small.
you were small.
I was
like,
small.
Pictures of you in the army, you're fucking yoked. You're huge, but
I put on over 50 pounds in basic training.
Holy shit.
Yeah, basic training and well, it was OSID, so it was a little longer because I was an infantry dude. But I put on a lot of weight in a couple months during that time period.
Same, actually, now I think about it.
Like a lot, but I was
So
small.
you're eating like really high calorie stuff, 3 meals a day. You wake up, you do PT.
It was physically for me, it was probably one of the better things that I've ever done. And I was already an athletic person, but I was quick and speedy. But anyways, this kid was probably pushing like 200. He was tall. I'm not very tall. I'm like 5'10", 5'11". He was tall, like, 6'4", big kid. And he body checked me in hockey. We were playing floor hockey, but I understood because I played football and soccer. So I had a really good sense of balance and body control and using other people's momentum because I was always kind of smaller. So I could get thrown off the ball if I didn't figure out how to do it. And I see him coming and he goes to body check me again. And I just shifted my weight and kind of turned and made him like fall on the floor. So it looked like I fucking yoked this guy. I definitely didn't. I just had better balance and body control and threw a hip out. He got fucking heated. And we pass some words, and then we go into the locker room, and the first thing he does when we're changing, he grabs me by the throat, and I remember this, grabs me by the throat and pins me against the locker. He's like, you gotta fucking apologize. But he wasn't like choking me. Like he had his hand on my throat, but he didn't really like know how to like this. It kind of just makes you talk like this. And I remember laughing at him, but like not because I'm like a badass. I just remember being like, I'm like, this is fucking ridiculous. I start laughing at him. And my buddy Matt, who joined the Army, who's bigger than me, very big guy, comes over, grabs him and throws him on the ground. And I'm just sitting there kind of like there's a smile on my face, but obviously I'm distressed. I'm a middle schooler. Someone just pinned me against a fucking locker. But I have a weird thing where like I laugh in those intense situations for myself.
I think that's straight up a personality archetype. Same here. I don't really have any great examples as you do, but I know a few people that happens to. It's actually really interesting.
I think it's like a defense mechanism or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Same.
It's strange. Like if it's like super intense,
like it's neat. It's better than shutting down or
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like if it's like a super intense thing, maybe I wouldn't shut down, or I wouldn't like smile, but like those little things where I know like I'm not gonna fucking die, like I don't know. I just like when the guy knocked on the door, I didn't know that my dad asked him to do it. I'm just like, there's a fucking door. What are you gonna do? Like break the glass and drag me out of the fucking car in broad daylight? Like in my mind, like a 7 to 9 year old, I'm like, this isn't a real threat to me. Like unless he's going to kill me, and I'm like, he's probably not gonna kill me. He's just, I don't know, he wants in the vehicle.
He's posturing. Yeah. Well, in the case of the kid, the guy who's pounding on your window might have been a psychopath. Who knows?
Yeah. Oh, it turns out my dad just...
he's just a buddy.
Wanted to see how I'm doing. Do you have any... Like, how do you react, like, in a situation?
Kind of between that and... It's been a while since I've been in, like, a threatening situation. I hate these conversations because it's always like, oh, yeah, a big tough guy. It's like, no, The one situation that I can think of was a long time ago, and hothead private in the Army, idiot bullshit fucking retard. But many years ago, this was during the Occupy Wall Street whole debacle. I remember being close to downtown. I got mugged, and four guys with one of them had a pistol. He pulled it out of his jacket, and could have been real, it could have been fake, but I just responded with anger. I just started yelling at him and walking towards him, and I just closed the distance and pulled out just like and this is stupid. It was so stupid, but was young, hot-headed. And I told him I'd take it from him and kill him and his friends with it, and all of that. I'm not like
the confidence on this young Chinese man in the middle of Canada,
in the middle of fucking Canada, and oh my god, they didn't like that and they left. And I called the police, who took half an hour to respond and take a statement. And surprisingly, they actually got caught. They got caught making a scene at a McDonald's several blocks from there. So they got arrested for other reasons, and I had to go and make a statement and all of that. But it worked. I guess, I was very lucky that the just getting mad and becoming irrational worked for me in that situation. But in retrospect, it was not the right move.
Did I ever tell you when I got stabbed when I was a private in the Army?
Fucking what? No, tell me.
Yeah, let me show you the scar. Can you
Oh my god, that is a what happened? That's like a big scar.
I got stabbed by a Moroccan. Well, stabbed sounds like there was a knife embedded in me. It was more like a slash, but like
yeah, that looks like a. It looks kind of like pavement burn or something.
No, it was a. Here, I'll show you again, like that. Right.
Oh yeah, no, that's knife marks. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was a private. I might have been 18 at this point. Weirdly in the Army, especially when you're an infantry guy, like you are pumped up with so much fucking confidence.
You are. Oh my god. Yeah. I think that. Yeah. Go on.
Yeah. So like. I was in the wrong. Well, me and my friends were. We went out and about, and we were in Italy. And my buddy, take his name out. My buddy, who was born and raised in Africa, we were at the same unit together, and we were out and about, and we were drinking in Italy in some random bar. And the Italians over there are very racist, and they made some racist remarks.
Just because they're fucking Italian.
They're very racist towards black people, except for the women. The women love black people over there. But yeah, they made some racist remarks towards him. Like they made like monkey gestures and said some things, and it pissed him off, and he was drunk. So me, him, and one other guy are leaving this bar, and take his name out. Sorry, I don't want to say his name. Me and this guy and, this other guy who had the racist remarks towards him, he is really fucked up. I'm really fucked up, but he assumes that he found the vehicles of the people that were saying that. They most likely were not these people's vehicles. And he just takes a forearm and smashes it down on their side view mirrors.
Oh, shit.
He does this on like 4 vehicles. In Italy, there's a taxi service that is run by Moroccans. In Italy, there's like an official taxi, which is like, the standard marked taxi. And then there's like the underground taxi, which is significantly cheaper and it's run by Moroccans. But, they may or may not take advantage of you. Who knows? You're kind of risking it each time. So it turns out one of those vehicles belonged to one of the Moroccan underground taxi people. And we took the underground taxi service a lot. Because it was just much cheaper. And
it's way cheaper, yeah.
Way cheaper, and we just assumed, we're like, if there's 3 or 4 of us traveling together, like, we're 3 or 4 infantrymen. Like, nobody's going to fuck with us. But it turned out it belonged to one of those taxi services, so...
no!
Yeah, so the Moroccans got really fucking pissed, and they saw him doing it. So they decided to chase us. And when I say chase, it's not like we're fucking... running a 4-5, 50-yard fucking dash through the streets of Italy and the cobblestone. I mean, like, we maybe got like 50 feet, and then there was like a ton more of them, and they were able to just, move and kind of give us corner us a little bit.
Yeah.
We got the shit kicked out of us eventually, but one of them drew a knife, and me, young, confident, and drunk, I'm like, put that fucking knife away before I go in. I'm like making all these threats. I'm like, I will cut your fucking, like, I was saying all types of shit. Like, I shouldn't have been, obviously.
Yeah, no, I get it. We're all
Yeah.
young. Once I did the same thing and got lucky.
Yeah.
You got less lucky looking at that scar.
Yeah, and I'm instigating the fucking conversation. So I just start walking towards them, and we're surrounded by like fucking Moroccans. They outnumber us like 2 or 3 to 1. And I just go over, I fucking aggressively walk towards this guy with a knife. And he just, really quick, I'm fucked up. He might have been fucked up or not, but I didn't do shit to him. He fucking just got me right in the shoulder. And then like all fucking hell broke loose, and we just got the shit kicked out of us. They took my buddy's wallet. Fast forward, I'm obviously bleeding, not like profusely, but I'm bleeding enough to where I'm like, oh fuck. So
it doesn't look great.
No,
this has been years since. So.
It's a gnarly scar. This is years and years ago. It's a gnarly scar though. So we go back to base, and this was back when medics were fucking cool. We go back to base. Ironically, we took a Moroccan taxi. The underground taxi. So we go back to base. I'm bleeding, and we're trying to cover it up, getting past the Carabinieri gate guards, the Italian police.
Yeah.
Because they would see that and be like, what the fuck? Like, no.
Yeah.
So we're like covering it up. We get up into the barracks, and our doc, great guy, used to hook us up with IVs. Like if we were too drunk. So we like pound on his door. He wakes up. He's like, yo, what's going on? He's like, oh shit, what happened to you? Stitched me up right in there. Gave all of us, because we were all really drunk and this was on a work night, gave us all IVs, and we showed up to PT, and like I was just like, doing push-ups with like fresh stitches in your shoulder. Like it was tough. Yeah, it was a good time. But it's amazing when you're young and you're in the military or you're in the infantry and you're just so fucking confident, like way over.
Yeah, you're super confident and super aggressive.
Like, yeah, I mean, you're like, I'm in the fucking infantry. I'm an airborne fucking infantryman. You're gonna draw a fucking knife on me? Like,
yeah.
And I've never had any type of combatives training with a knife. But
same. Like they don't teach that. I mean, I'm sure it's a certain level, like you're an 18 or something.
But for me, in my head, I'm an expert with fucking hand-to-hand combat and knives at this point. Like, you couldn't tell me I'm not. I'm like, you draw this fucking knife, I will take it from you. I will fuck you up with like things that I'm definitely not capable of or have no training or experience in. And I got fucking cut for it.
Yeah. Well, you live and learn.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely over the years, I have been humbled by others, and I've humbled myself to a point where I am probably the least aggressive person that you could be.
It's not a bad kind of character development, I think. It's when you're young and hot-headed and super confident, that's just kind of a recipe for trouble.
Yeah, it was fun though. Like, you look back, I mean, you're a little bit older than me, but you ever like look back at that time and you think of all the shit that you got into, and you're like,
oh yeah, no, it's funny. Like I regret some, I don't regret others, but it is funny. And, like everything makes you who you are today.
Yeah. And, got stabbed by some Moroccans in Italy. It's a fun story. I could definitely make it out to be like I was a badass and I kicked the shit out of people. I don't think I landed a single fucking punch or blow to anyone. I got my ass beat and I got stabbed. So,
Well, you're okay now and you got a cool scar out of it. But
yeah, I'm fine. I wasn't anything life-threatening. I never told the army about it either. No.
Probably for the best.
Well, I don't know if we would have gotten in trouble. I feel like actually our NCOs at the time would have been like, oh, fucking privates out and about doing dumb shit. You alive? You take care of each other? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But it's funny. It's funny. I don't miss being that young and like obviously way more overconfident in what I could do. But I do find it's fun to reflect on some of those moments and be like, wow, I was fucking stupid.
Yeah. Everyone's young and dumb once. Well, some people skip that phase entirely. They're few and far between. But most people are young and dumb once. Some people are just dumb forever.
There's a lot of people. Like
A
people that eat
lot of
cereal
fucking
for
people.
breakfast still.
Fucking John Harvey Kellogg, piece of shit.
You know, I used to eat cereal before bed. It's probably like the worst thing you could do for yourself.
Oh, it's same. Actually, like, I'm not joking. I would bring up like a bowl of Nesquik or Frosted Flakes or something with chocolate milk.
Because it's your fucking brain saying you need the sugar or you're
Yeah.
going to die.
Dude, it is so unreal to me how much of it is just psychological, like brain chemicals, etc. Well, you know, a couple weeks ago, I did that thing where I just didn't eat for a week, just drank water and coffee. Like it's insulin and whatnot that causes your body to eat itself. If you don't have anything, if you fast smart, it only burns fat, and you actually maintain your muscle, and you know it creates anti-inflammatory chemicals, and it was wonderful. But something I noticed after a day or two, hunger just disappeared. Any cravings I got were purely psychological. And same with I did for a little while keto, which is a fad diet. I just wanted to see what it was like. And you know, I'll never tell anyone not to eat carbs. I think that they're important. Natural sugars can be important, etc. But it got me cognizant of checking the ingredients on everything, literally everything. You know, I get a packet of nuts. I'll look at, you know, how much sugar, and there's sugar in everything. You're
They
right.
add sugar.
Everything. We're going full circle.
So like, it's not, my problem isn't with, because there's some things that are just sugary. Like I said, like you get a bowl of fruit. There's going to be
natural sugars in it.
There could be natural sugars in it, but when you start seeing the added sugars, or like you go to the ingredients and you see like sucralose and like all these things that have like the ose at the end, and you're like,
so sucralose, that's a sweetener, right? Like a 0-calorie sweetener.
Yeah, so anything that ends in like glucose, sucralose, like anything that ends in like eose is just a sugar, essentially. It's a sweetener.
Yeah,
and artificial most likely, and it's bad for you.
Yeah, I've been using a stevia leaf extract. Just whenever I need to kind of kick my sugar cravings, I'll very rarely put a little. What?
Go natural sugar, make you feel better.
I like the stevia. It's
Boo.
What?
John Harvey Kellogg's winning with you getting
the opposite. It's stevia is still natural, and it doesn't spike your insulin.
Oh, it is?
Zero calories, but it's just a powdered leaf.
Oh, I take it back. Never mind.
Yes. It's a powdered leaf. It's not sucralose. It's not anything like that. And you can just buy it in bags. It's not particularly expensive, and it's way like they have to basically add a filler, so it is the same volume as sugar because it is so much sweeter. But that helps kick my cravings, and now I don't even really need that.
Yeah, I've tried to convert just like primarily, as I said, to those natural sugars. So I keep a ton of fruit in my house. One, because I like fruit.
No, fruit's good.
But if it's not like 11 o'clock at night and I'm not just going to go get some of that really dark chocolate I was telling you about, like it'll be like 6 or 5 and I'll just have, you know, a handful of like blueberries or raspberries.
Yeah.
And that helps a lot too, because you're still getting that sugar and that brain, you know, your brain saying, hey, you need this or you're going to die. But it's not having a can of peas and having sugar added that gets you subtly addicted to sugar.
100%.
It's so fucking bad. And that's why people are fat. We were talking about, you know, carbs, you know, and portion control. It's not just carbs are bad or carbs are good.
No, it's everything within reason. Everything within reason. But the problem is, like, we are given the wrong numbers for what reason is. And we're taught that things are healthy when they're not. Like, the food pyramid, that was a huge scheme.
The food guide pyramid.
Yeah, that was absolutely pushed by big agriculture. That was something that was heavily lobbied for. And like, carbs shouldn't be the basis of everything you eat.
No,
they shouldn't.
No. What was it? It was carbs, vegetables, fruit, meat, desserts. Dude, and I remember being in middle school when we first learned about that. We have health class. Do you have health class?
We had something kind of adjacent to that. I don't know what it's like now. You know, I graduated friggin' like half my life ago, but
Yeah, so we had a health class, and in that health class, you learned about the food guide pyramid, and you also learned about like safe sex.
Yeah.
There was a controversy with like condoms being handed out.
Yeah. We had that controversy too. It's funny
Yeah.
how things have changed, eh?
It's very different now. But
Yeah.
with the food guide pyramid, I remember like learning about it, and I mean, I'm young, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. But then it was a wrestling coach, and I wasn't on the wrestling team, but I knew him, and he was kind of like a family acquaintance, and like I knew of him. And in wrestling, for starters, what they do at middle and high school, I'm not going to judge it, but it sounds probably a lot worse than it actually is. You have to make weight. So some wrestlers before a match in like middle and high school, you'll see them have a 2-liter bottle of Coke and they're spitting into it.
Yeah.
And they'll fill it up with spit to get rid of that weight before a wrestling match.
Yeah. No, that tracks.
Yeah, so they'll do shit like that. But I was talking to him about the food guide pyramid, and he's like, all right, so let's break this down real fucking simple for you. And he's like, gives me like a fucking talk. He's like, are you telling me, who was it at the time? My favorite, it was Merlon Greenwood. He was an outside linebacker for the Miami Dolphins. He was like, who's your favorite? I'm like, Merlon Greenwood. He's like, so you're telling me that Merlon Greenwood, a professional football linebacker, needs to consume the same calories as like your father? And I'm like, oh, that kind of makes sense. He's like, the food guide pyramid is bullshit. And I'm like,
it is.
And I remember being a kid and being like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Why are they saying that like when I hit 18, I have to consume, what was it, like 24 to 2,600 calories as a man?
Yeah. A majority of which are coming from like bread and wheat.
Yeah. And you know, a day, are you like Michael Phelps? I remember learning he consumed close to like 10 to 15,000 calories a day. And he wasn't fat. He's the world's best, most decorated Olympian, I'm pretty sure still. Yeah. Like the food guide pyramid was a really fucking terrible thing that was very obvious propaganda that turned out to be, like you said, it was financially motivated and benefited from agriculture, because they were like, we have this really cheap and inexpensive thing that we can raise the prices on, which was carbs.
Yeah.
And it has a lot of calories in it, and we're going to say those are the best calories for you. And then they load those carbs down with sugar, and then they make you fucking addicted so they taste good.
Yeah. And oh my God, it's terrible. Don't even get me started on BMI and that whole system of measurement. I was chosen to be in a study of some kind, and I went into the hospital, or God, wherever it was like a private clinic, and they took my weight, and at the time I think I was 175 pounds or 180, which put me in overweight. And they're like, yeah, you can't do this, you're overweight, we're sorry, you lose a couple pounds. And there I was with like wearing like 30-inch waist, you know, one of the best shapes of my life, you know, gym every day, just eating nothing but clean. I'm like, really? What? That doesn't seem right. It doesn't. And I think it's the same with the food pyramid. I think it's the same with all of these things. It doesn't really take those things into account. You made the comparison a while ago between Lizzo and a linebacker.
No, Lizzo, it's even worse than a linebacker. I don't know if you know NFL football positions. You know, like offensive linemen and defensive linemen?
Yeah.
So, you know, those are the big, like 6'6", 300-pound motherfuckers.
Yeah.
The Lizzo thing where she's like, new man on the Minnesota Vikings. When that song came out, the only player on the Minnesota Vikings that weighed more than Lizzo was a 6'7" defensive tackle. And he was only 2 pounds heavier than her.
Oh my God.
She's like 5'6". A 6'7" defensive tackle, professional defensive fucking lineman is only 2 pounds heavier than you.
She has this new show on I saw a trailer for it. God, why did it just came up on I don't know, YouTube or something. Watch out for the big girls. She has a show on Amazon now, and holy shit, I don't know why I sat through it, but the entire time I was just like, holy fuck, the Industrial Revolution, its consequences have been a fucking disaster for the human race. It is so Oh my god, this is where we are.
Have you ever seen her
We had a
Snapchat?
tinfoil hat. What?
Have you ever seen her Snapchat?
Seen her Snapchat? No, fuck no. Why would I?
Her Snapchat, she used to put up these stories of her like drinking smoothies or like working out or something. And she's like, I work out and eat healthier than all of you. I have this genetic thing where it makes me and blah, blah, blah. And there is no genetic anything. I mean, there are some things that make you like predisposition to hold calories more. Like that is definitely a
No,
thing.
100%. Like metabolisms and like holding on
Sure.
to weight. Some people can have it much harder to lose weight,
Yes.
but
But
at
the-
the same time,
There is no disease.
yeah,
There is no disease that only makes you fat. There
Yeah.
isn't a disease that does that.
yeah.
and-
It's some people will have to work harder than others, but at the same time, it's like congratulations, Lizzo. You're the only person who is immune from the laws of thermodynamics.
You're the only person that exists that can diet and exercise and can't lose weight. You're the
Yes.
only person that
You're the
exists.
only
that
one,
can do that.
I guess.
I hate Lizzo.
Yeah,
hate her.
s-
I hate her
honestly,
song.
same. Like, hate's a strong word, but like, no, I hate Lizzo. The whole fat acceptance movement it's just so manufactured.
It's not okay. It's not okay to be fat.
It's not okay.
Like, sure, if you want to
Well,
be
you
fat,
you look at the big people who like whenever there's an advertisement for body positivity, all of that. A lot of them are tied to big agriculture. No one wants to talk about that.
dude, being fat. All right, if you want to be fat on your own and you want to slowly kill yourself, whatever. Like, that's you. It's your own choice. I'm not going to respect you because you clearly don't respect yourself, but whatever. But if you're one of those fat people like Lizzo who says they're healthy and tries to push this like acceptance of being unhealthy, no, I'm going to call you a fucking retard and publicly not like you and publicly
Yeah.
be like, I don't respect you as a human being because you are like, sure, you still deserve the same. I'm not trying to dehumanize someone. You still have the same inalienable rights as anybody else, blah, 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 yada, yada.
Yeah.
I don't respect you. And I think
Yeah.
you're a piece of shit. And I think all the bad things in the world should happen to you.
Yes. TLDR, post physique. Just
Well, there is a counter. There is a counter. And it's
yeah.
the model industry, which has been, pushing bulimia and anorexia. Not
Oh yeah,
good
no,
either.
it's always been super toxic. It just wavers in how toxic it is.
Yeah, very terrible.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, everything, and it always has been, but it's funnier as things get pushed to various polar extremes. All of those industries have always been about, well, virtue signaling.
Can you picture Lizzo running a mile?
No, Jesus, fuck. It's like,
Can you imagine?
I can't picture Lizzo running a block.
Can you imagine, like, physically seeing her run a mile? What that looks like? It would be good for her, and I'd be
You ever seen the
cheering
movie
for her.
Flubber?
No, I haven't.
Okay, never mind.
I'd be cheering for her if she did start running a mile.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's again like big people are trying to work on themselves. I fucking respect it. Like, to me, those people are not. I wouldn't count them as fat people because they're fucking working on it.
Yeah, and you don't have to be yoked. You don't have to be rail thin. You don't have to be like whatever is considered like ideal. You just don't be so fucking fat and gross and unhealthy. If you're fat and unhealthy and trying to promote yourself as a healthy individual and how what you're doing is okay, it's the equivalent of saying breakfast is the most important meal of the day and putting sugar in it because you're kids that look up to you and kids that are like, wow, Lizzo wrote this song. That's super cool. I want to
it's
be like
super
Lizzo when I grow up.
empowering. Like, I should feel good about myself, even though, I'm 8 years old and I just got diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. That's okay.
And it was strange. Like, gym class being in school was a mandatory thing for us. And people, if you didn't pass gym, which gym was the easiest fucking thing to pass,
Yeah.
if you didn't pass gym, you couldn't pass. And people, as I was, I think it was 11th and 12th grade, people were like, gym class shouldn't be mandatory. And I'm like, if there's any class that should be mandatory in public school, it should be gym class. And it should be getting out and doing healthy things. And the result of that protest in my area changed it to where gym class was purely physical things. So like going outside, and it made it so it was like 3 3 out of your 5 gym classes was still going out and doing outside shit, but the other 2 times was learning about sports and like taking written tests.
What the fuck?
Yeah, it was really fucking awful.
That's
It was
weird.
so bad.
Yeah.
But people were failing gym because they didn't participate. Like we had to do it was like the President's Challenge. It was like a 1 mile run, 1 minute push-ups, 1 minute sit-ups, or I think it was like a pull-up hang.
Yeah.
And people would be like, no, I'm not going to run the mile. I'm not going to do that. And it was like, no, it's mandatory. And people would bitch and complain. And eventually it turned into, like 3 out of your 5 gym classes that you do in a week will be outside activity, but 2 of those things will be written tests and sitting at a desk. And I'm like, this is so bad. This is awful.
Yeah, like that defeats the entire purpose. And like, Mitch, you know me. I rag on sports a little bit, mostly for the comedy of it all. Like, because I know you love sports and it drives you wild. And I would never really played sports growing. Like, I'm a pretty active person now. I want to think, I could be better, but I think it's great. I think if more people played sports, got that community, got that physical aspect. I think our mental health crisis would be a lot less terrible than it is.
Physical activity. We would have like
physical activity, and with sports, you get a sense of community. You don't necessarily need that. I like at my age, I'm not going to get into sports. I already have all the things I need to do. Sorry, I cut you off.
I was just thinking of when I was in school, we had like the fat kids that would show up to gym, and they were fat. I mean, obviously, gym class isn't going to make somebody healthy. It's like 30 minutes of activity every day, which is better than nothing, but
100%.
It's not the end all be all.
Yeah.
But I remember the fat kids that would show up to gym class, and later on, in the day, they'd either be like falling asleep at their desk because school was fucking boring, or just complaining about like life in general. And I'm like, dude, it's because you're fucking fat and you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
Like even in like
the
a
human
middle
body
or
was
high
not
school thing.
Yeah.
They would go home, in school, they're sitting at a desk all day. They eat some shitty school lunch that it was like thick, doughy, disgusting pizza.
Yeah.
And then they wouldn't participate in that 30 minutes of exercise in gym. And then they just, they're sitting at a desk all day, and then they go home, they log on. We played Modern Warfare or Modern Warfare 2 together. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, you didn't even you were on Modern Warfare while I was at like football practice, or I was at soccer practice. Then I come home and I play, and I'm happy as fuck. You're depressed and you're not doing shit. Participate in gym class. You will feel better. It's 30 minutes of exercise, but you'll feel better.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny how the body reacts to just negative outside pressures, such as a complete lack of physical exercise, lack of a cohesive and healthy diet, things like that. Normally you feel terrible, you're lethargic, your mood is awful. And I honestly think, there's a small checklist of things that I always recommend people to do if they just feel, depressed, anxious, down in the dumps. And, whenever they're implemented, I don't want to say, depression, anxiety, and whatnot aren't valid. They are. They absolutely are. These are not be all end all solutions. But things can be treated. And I think a huge part of treating that is a healthy lifestyle in terms of, you get a little bit of exercise, you get a little bit of sunshine, and you eat all right. And you sleep properly. Between those 4 things, you can really, really mitigate most, if not all. In a lot of cases, it's all. I remember during the pandemic lockdown where I was just eating like shit because everything's closed, can't even go to the park, all of that stuff. It was really easy to get in this recursive loop of just unhealthy habits. And I felt so fucking miserable. And all it took to get back in the swing of things is eat more vegetables, sleep properly and on a schedule, and go outside. That's all it took. And there are mountains of research to back this up. I'll never, say depression isn't real or people's struggles aren't valid, but you can help treat things, but you really have to want to.
Some of the best moments, if I could put a peak on, between the ages of 10 and 18, if I could put a peak on when everything in my life felt the best, it was when I would go to school I would go to gym class, and then after school, the way that it worked, I played football and soccer, and they were both um, fall season sports, but they offset soccer practice from football practice. So
Yeah.
right after school from 2:15, I'd run in the locker room. My change practice was at 2:30. From 2:30 until about 4, I was at soccer practice. And then from about 5:30 to 7, I was at football practice.
Yeah.
And, I was still doing school. But when I think of like mentally between the ages of like 10 and 18, like mentally and physically best times, like I didn't experience anxiety until I was an adult. I didn't
Yeah.
have anxiety dealing with that. I was dating a girl in high school who would literally fucking hit me. But like the only way that I dealt with her was I was so fucking happy. Like I'm playing fucking sports. I'm getting out. I'm engaging with people. I'm making friends. I'm physically exhausting myself. I would come home. I'd talk with her on the phone for like an hour. I would eat dinner. And then I would just go to bed every single day at 9 o'clock. And then I'd wake up again at 6:30 the next day, and I would do it all over again. And for those couple months in the fall while I was doing those two sports, I was in not only the best physical shape that, somebody in those ages could be, like mentally, I was doing the best that I ever was. Like it was so good for me. And when you mentioned during the pandemic, that was kind of, for me, when I was actually physically able to do stuff in the Army, I was PTing in the morning for 2 hours. And then I would do like a midday, like during my lunch, like workout sometimes.
Yeah.
But then like afterwards, I would either go coach and play soccer, or I would go to the gym depending on what was going on. And I was eating still like I'm doing those physical activities as much. So when the pandemic hit and a lot of those things couldn't happen, like we couldn't even do morning PT, I was physically incapable of going out and running 5 miles like I was before because of my back and neck. I was still
Yeah.
eating like I was doing that stuff. And I'd say for a couple fucking months there, I started to get a little chub. And I'm like, oh, I just saw it one day and I'm like, dude, am I getting fat? And I wasn't fat. I had only put on, maybe 10, 15 pounds. But I remember looking at that and I'm like, dude, why the fuck am I getting fat? And then I was like, oh, it's because I'm still eating like I'm doing all this shit and I'm not doing this shit anymore. So adjusting my diet was probably modern day one of the best things I've done.
Yeah. No, 100%. It's there's no one size fits all solution. There really isn't. And people don't realize how many calories even just hiking or things like that burn, or sports or anything like that. What was it? I think Redbeard Tactical posted something about how many calories just, bush rucking burns. And wasn't it like 2,000 calories in 3 hours or something like that?
It's a
I can't
lot.
remember. So it was a lot. It was a lot. And I remember back in the day, I looked at the nutritional information of, rations, and in your packet, you've got like 3,000 to 5,000 calories. I can't remember. I was going, oh, well, that sounds like a lot. And then I was losing weight in the field, wondering why. That's why.
One of the things that one thing I implemented when I was kind of like peak physique, I'd say, in my adult life.
Yeah.
I cut out those cereals, and my breakfast, like before morning PT, it used to be like a handful of spinach and like some type of berries. And the logic was, I'm sure there's some like health professional out there who's like, no, this isn't good because of this. But what I felt that it did for me, the berries would get my metabolism, kind of wake that shit up. And it would also wake me up and give me that quick energy. And the spinach, I don't know, I just like spinach. And I'm like, that's a dark leafy green. That's good for me. But
Yeah.
I would always feel, and I noticed it, maybe it's a psychological thing that makes you perform better, because I definitely believe in those things. But I would feel so much better if I would eat that stuff before doing some type of PT, and then I would perform better. Like when I implemented that, I think I cut like 45 seconds off my runtime, which could very well be psychological, where I'm like,
Yeah, but still.
But it works. It makes you perform better, even if it is psychological, if you just take care of yourself.
It absolutely is. Hell, I'm feeling it right now. Anyone who's listening to this might know. I injured both my rotator cuffs and my wrist kind of around the same time. So I've been out of the gym for God, what is it, a month and a half? And like it really sucks because I can't even run. Whenever I run, I swing my shoulders, and when I swing my shoulders, it fucks up my rotator cuff. So basically, I'm just stuck to walking, even like ruck hiking, things like that. Usually inflame it again. I just recently started getting back into the gym, and I feel miserable. All the, like it was still not terrible. I'm making steps to try and mitigate that, but immediately like your mindset shifts, your health, just how your body reacts to things. It's not good.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be sports. Like I just
It
get
doesn't have
my
to be sports at all.
yeah, it doesn't have to be sports. I mean, I love sports. I like the competitiveness of it.
Yeah.
We were talking with Paige about why art doesn't work for me. It's because art, you can't really be. I mean, you can be competitive with art.
You can
but
be competitive, but it usually just makes you an asshole.
Yeah, and like that's not the culture where you can really be competitive, and it's fine. That's why I love and respect, what art does for folks. But for me, I always wanted that competitiveness, and I'm able to get that competitive energy as well as my physical, energy, and put it towards something where it's like it's not always skill. A lot of it is physical attributes, but you can combine all those things, and it worked for me. But even like BR, the producer of the show, he's probably listening to this because he's editing it. But for him, I was listening to him talk, like he is able to go into the mountains and do some rucks and just walk around in nature, and it like clears his head. It makes him feel great.
Yeah, I'm going to do that literally right after we're done recording. I'm going to pack a bag and go walk into the woods, probably on my own, and that's what works for me.
Yeah. You don't have to go out and play sports like me. I mean, I love it. That's where I get a lot of it from. But even if you're just going in the mountains, walking around, carrying some weight, even if you don't start, because don't just start if you've never rucked before, putting like a 75-pound bag on your back and go and try and walk 6 miles.
Oh my God, dude. Oh, I got a story about that.
Just, go out for a walk with no weight, and then go out with like 10 pounds and like 20, 30 and build up, and you'll feel great.
Yeah,
or maybe
100%.
Like
I'm going to complain about this quickly. I bullied my friend into, and he agreed to go, so into going on a rock hike with me right before I got injured. And
is it a mutual friend?
No, he's messaged the page before, and he might listen to this. And if so, I'm still going to make fun of you for this, Cole.
Is he fat?
No, he's actually in really good shape. Yeah,
okay.
He's in really good shape, but he doesn't ruck. But he showed up with like this ancient rucksack, which is totally okay again, but it just had like a 45 or 35-pound dumbbell in it, and that's it. And
boo,
not super far into the ruck, like I want to say. And he warned me again, like, so this is kind of on me being like, okay, let's just fucking do it. If it gets too bad, I'll take your weight from you, because I had 40 or 50 pounds in my bag. And I had my plate carrier with which was probably about 15 pounds in zone. I don't like rucking and plate carriers, but sometimes you gotta. And I want to say like a kilometer or two into it, he couldn't do it. So I took his weight and put it on top of mine. I gave him my plate carrier. But just, that's not how you ruck. That's not how you do it. You got this fucking swinging dumbbell in the bottom of your bag. That's terrible. And like I ruck with 50, 60, 70, and it sucks. I can do it, but like this weird like super concentrated mass, and I put it where you're supposed to put the heavy stuff in your bag, but even then it fucked with me. It wasn't great. It actually took me out for like the next 24 hours. I felt terrible.
Yeah, no, that's really bad for you. I see people in the army that'll do that. They'll just put like a single weight. They're like, oh, it's a 45-pound ruck. Well, I'm going to get exactly 45. They grab like a fucking dumbbell, and I'm like, dude, that thing is going to be swinging into your lower back, drilling your fucking spine.
Oh, it's awful.
You got to distribute that way. It's not 45 pounds strictly on your lower lumbar spine. It's 45 pounds spread across your entire back, hips, and shoulders.
Yeah.
And it's so bad for you if you do that. And I am not, neither of us are, I think, physical fucking specimens. We're not,
Jesus Christ, no.
Yeah, we're not like dietary fucking geniuses.
We're not experts on literally anything we talk about, and people need to realize that.
But I do know what makes me feel really fucking good physically and mentally, and I do know that being fat is really fucking bad for you.
Yeah.
Getting out there rucking, maybe you play some sports, Maybe you go for runs. Maybe you just like go into the gym, like, or maybe like a multitude of those things. But get out and do some of those things and eat healthy,
Eat
and
healthy.
look at those ingredients, because there's a lot of added bullshit in there that you don't need.
Yeah. I'm not going to, like, I was talking with a Ryan training group about like all the foods that nuke your testosterone, and holy shit, well, sugar's a big one. And I'm not going to deep dive this right now, but just how testosterone levels have been plummeting for decades and decades and decades, and it's like
Our
the average
taints are getting smaller. That's a big thing.
testicles.
Taints.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, I read a book. I can't remember who. She was on Joe Rogan, I know, but I read a book by this woman who did a study, and obviously, like, the taint thing is more like the why is my taint shrinking? Like, that's just kind of like the, it's like the clickbait of it. But
Yeah.
testosterone and males in general have seen such a decrease in being able to physically do things comparatively to how we were like 200 years ago.
Oh, 100%.
And the direct correlation is not only like microplastics.
Yeah. Oh, microplastics in everything. You can't even get
Microplastic. I mean, we
they're
found
rain.
microplastics in people's blood now. Like, it's
Oh,
in
God.
us. It's in our bodies. It's part of us. We can't do anything about it. There,
Uncle
there's
Ted is just like rolling over in his bunk right now.
we get enough we consume or ingest enough microplastics a week to build a credit card.
Jesus Christ.
It's really fucking bad. But I was reading this book about her that she wrote about that. I pulled that from a Joe Rogan episode that I learned about. But the microplastics and the sugar and the way that we have structured diets through paid advertisements as opposed to diets for what's actually good for you has made us so much more incapable of physically doing things than we were 200 years ago. It was steep. It was like a couple 100% where, if we were to go back in time, people's like, oh, maybe we'd survive and we would thrive. I mean, we would, because we'd have like a superior immune system. And like modern medicine has been great. Even that's kind of being infiltrated now, I feel, but that's a different topic. But physically, we wouldn't be able to keep up.
Yeah.
Our athletes nowadays are definitely stronger, faster than ever before, because we can focus and we can see a lot more that's going on with the human body.
Yeah, the science is there to really, really micromanage, but they're athletes. They're not the...
Yeah, if you took like the world's fastest sprinter 300 years ago and put them up against now, they'd get their asses fucking kicked. But physically, for the average male, and males specifically, and in women too, but mostly males, physically, the decline has been so drastic because of those three things: the microplastics, the diet through advertisement, not for actually what's good for you, and the laziness that has just overtaken our society and the convenience. It's really detrimental, and it's shrinking our taints.
It's shrinking our taints.
It's shrinking our taints.
Yes. But like, I've heard that's one of the big things. Like, medically low testosterone is so common, but is really, really undiagnosed. It's hard to get the blood work for it, especially here. I know a friend of mine in Europe, I'm not going to say exactly where, was trying to go through his healthcare system to get blood work done because he knew. Turns out it was dangerously low, but the amount of work he had to do to even get the diagnosis and the prescription was insane. And all sorts of doctors along the way were telling him, like, oh, that's a waste of time. That's a waste of time. That's a waste of time. And it ended up being like 1/3 that of what a healthy male should be.
It's insane. And I want to go back to the diet for advertisement thing. That's when it really started in a negative way, was John Harvey Kellogg. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. They had an insane marketing budget to where they would put out commercials, and it was like, breakfast is the most important meal of the day. And what better way to start with something quick and easy, like a bowl of cornflakes or a bowl of, whatever. And this is the same guy who, as we discussed earlier, wanted to put wires through men's penises and burn female genitalia to prevent masturbating, who refused to have sex with his wife even.
Yeah.
Like he was a fucking batshit crazy, really smart guy, and those people in history are notoriously known for being the most dangerous,
Yeah.
because they're able to be like, huh, I know what manipulates people. And he picked something that literally alters the way your brain chemically works, which was sugar and artificial sugar. And putting that in the first thing you consume in the day.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
It absolutely is. And the fact that it is, I'm not going to tinfoil hat too hard because I have another thing that I want to schizo rant about. So I don't want to do two in one episode. I think it's absolutely, there is an element of it being controlled and being pushed for that reason.
Well, and if you look at like the evolution of food in general, it used to be like, think of, people traveling across the United States pioneering, right? They were making fucking rainbow stew and they would eat that for days while traveling and physically working. And, as we started to slowly industrialize, there was more restaurants popping up instead of just like saloons where like maybe they cooked like shepherd's pie or some shit.
Yeah.
And then food in general started to be advertised more kind of like how fashion is, like trends.
Yeah.
This is the latest diet you have to try. Get your food at McDonald's in under 30 seconds or it's free or something.
Yeah.
Like just all of these things. I don't think McDonald's ever made that their campaign slogan. I was just trying to emphasize that the way that food has been presented now, it's get it quick, get it easy, and it'll fill you up and it tastes great.
Yeah.
And the things that taste good sometimes are good for you and sometimes they're not. But the emphasis, as I said, has been more on the advertising. And they know, it's good. It's really good marketing if you think about it. It's cynical. But
Yeah.
it's really
No.
good marketing if you're like, what does the human brain do when it has copious amounts of sugar introduced into its diet for many, many years? It begins to think it needs it. So we're going to start putting sugar in food that has absolutely nothing to do, like it shouldn't have sugar in it. Like a can of peas, you shouldn't add sugar to that. But they're like, it'll not only taste better than the competition, but it'll get people addicted to it over time. Then they'll keep coming back and grabbing the one that tastes better, that their brain tells them that they need.
No, 100%. It's very
great marketing.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And it's horrifying that, I'm not going to be like, oh, yes, we can fix this through more regulation, but it shows the failures of government in the fact that this was not only allowed, but promoted by the government. It's the FDA and the EPA both educate this. Like the thing, it's a vicious cycle, and it goes through all levels of bureaucracy, and it go all the way down to our schools where we learn that these things are okay. Remember, just I think a week ago, I don't want to out you too bad, so I'm not going to say where. You went to an event where there were other parents, and
holy shit.
Yeah.
I'm angry
I'm
again.
going to let you talk about this.
I got to be careful with what I say because this involves other people's kids, and I'm not other people's kids' parent. For my daughter, we feed her. We don't go and we get baby food. And I don't judge anybody that gets baby food. Whatever, you feed your kid whatever you want. What we do, we got a food processor. We're introducing solid foods to her. I think we started that like 2 or 3 months ago. We'll go get like a pepper or an avocado, like an actual vegetable. We go to like a farmer's market. We'll get it. We'll blend it up and then we'll feed it to her like that. Or we'll cut it into strips now because she can kind of like chew things, and we'll give it to her. And that's how we feed her. Maybe it's not the best way. Maybe it is. I don't know. But it feels right to us, and that's how we're going about it. I went to a birthday party for a 1-year-old.
Yeah.
And there were all these other babies around and, whatever. We were the only parents there that weren't, and I'm not talking like chubby, I'm talking obese, like pushing 300 pounds, morbidly obese individuals.
Yeah.
And they're feeding their kids. They're kind of did the same thing as we do. They have like a food processor or they crush things up, except they're crushing up like Oreos. And they're
Oh my
crushing up.
God.
Yeah. And dude, I watched a parent give, I think it was I don't remember how old. It was less than a year old. I watched a parent take soda from a can and try and give it to their fucking infant. And I'm
That's
like,
abuse. There's no two ways around it.
I'm like, what the fuck? Like, this isn't good. Like, that isn't. And I'm sitting there and I'm trying. Not, I'm a very judgmental person and I recognize that. But I'm sitting there and I'm like, I'm not going to say shit. Not my kid. Whatever.
Yeah.
My kid. We're gonna eat whatever. We're gonna take care of our kid how we see fit. People are gonna take care of their kids how they see fit. I'm not gonna judge other people's parenting. But I remember seeing that. I'm like, what the fuck? And then, there was cake, and there was a cake for the kids, and then a cake for the adults. Me and my wife turned down the cake, no problem.
Yeah.
They weren't offended, and we just don't like. I don't eat cake in general. I don't like cake. I never liked cake. We didn't have any cake, and without asking us, they just put a piece of cake down in front of my daughter, and I'm like, my daughter's not eating that shit. Like, what does she need? She doesn't need to eat cake. And I'm like, what? We weren't even asked. They just put a piece of cake down in front of my kid, and then they're feeding their kids cake, which, like, I get it. Feed your kid whatever. It's a celebratory thing. If you want to give your kid like a bite of ice cream, like whatever, that's you. We'll do that sometimes if we're having like some ice cream. We get ice cream like once a month from Cold Stone.
Yeah.
We'll take like a small little bit like on a spoon and give her some, and it's just like, try new things.
Yeah.
But like a whole ass piece of cake, and we're like, we're not giving our daughter that.
No, that's insane.
We're not giving our daughter a piece of fucking cake. She's 8 months old. She has 2 teeth. Like, we're not giving her fucking cake. She doesn't need cake. She doesn't need soda. She doesn't need crushed up fucking Oreos being fed to her.
That's insane to me.
In
every way.
It was wild. And one of the kids had very obvious Down syndrome.
Yeah.
Which is already it's a very stressful thing, I imagine, for parents. The parent of, no, it wasn't that parent. This is a separate story. But the kid with Down syndrome was one of the kids that was getting soda. And I'm like, and I don't know if there's any correlation between like, infants with Down syndrome and soda. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's harmless, right? But when I'm looking at it on face value, I'm like, this is wrong.
I think giving it to any kids is wrong, honestly.
Yeah, like if you're like a 5 or 6 year old and you're going to like a party and there's like a cup of soda, like personally, I'm not gonna give my kid that soda, but like I'm not gonna judge you. Like whatever, your kid has soda, cool. But at one point during this party, this mother who was very obese, and I understand, after you have a kid, it takes time to, lose weight, and you're not going to be like a fucking superbody. Like, that's not what that's never ever my expectation. And I'm not saying that's how it should be. I'm saying she was morbidly obese, and it was very obvious that it was a choice to be that morbidly obese. Yeah. She comes over to us and she's like, "You're so lucky that your kid wasn't born with any like diseases or anything." And I'm sitting there and I'm like, is it lucky, or did we just take care of ourselves and take care of her and not feed our kids
just like garbage,
infants garbage, and eat garbage during pregnancy? Like, it's insane to me. And that was like my first real event going out as like a parent dealing with like other parents of like kids in like the same age range. And as I said, I'm a very judgmental person. And when it comes to people's kids, I'm never going to tell anybody how to treat their fucking kid as long as they're not like physically kicking the shit out of their kid. Like, parent however the fuck you want. I'm going to think it's wrong. I might think it's right, whatever. But I'm just sitting there at this fucking party watching people spoon feed crushed up Oreos and crushed up chips and full pieces of cake and icing and soda to like sub 1-year-olds. And I was disgusted.
Jesus Christ.
I was disgusted.
Well, have you seen the studies on how many people were classed, even by just today's standards, as clinically overweight or obese between, 40, 50, 60 years ago and now.
No, I haven't.
I can't remember what year it was, but it was a few decades ago. By a few, I mean anywhere between 4 and 6. I genuinely can't remember. But it was 15% of the population was overweight.
Jesus
and now it's something
Christ.
like 70. And
Jesus
again,
Christ.
we have to take into account that a large proportion of that, by our modern standards, aren't actually overweight. They're heavier than, when the BMI would be to count them as healthy. And like the obvious caveat, we're not talking about BMI, we're not talking about increased muscle mass. Obviously, that's a minority of people, but the proportion of people that were overweight and obese, it was like, I think it was 15% were overweight and like 1 or 2% were obese then, compared to the 60, 70% and 33% now. It's insane. And it's absolutely the failures that we talked about.
I'm not a pediatrician, but I feel like these things that I saw, and I don't know, maybe they only do that for like birthday parties, right?
Yeah.
Maybe that was just one event and the rest of the time, like, they feed their kids a very healthy diet. I don't know. But especially with knowing what happens with sugar in the human brain, as we've been talking about, I feel like there has to be some connection between that and infants getting fed soda and Oreos. Like, I feel like there has to be some connection between that obesity rate, because
that's not even a question. It's obvious.
I mean, I can't say for sure. I don't know the science or the pediatrician behind this. I would love to talk with one, actually.
Yeah.
But I mean, just as I said, I try and do like the eye test for me, because I'm not the smartest person in the world. I'm probably not even like average fucking intelligence, but when I see something that looks fucked up, like soda and Oreos for like an 8-month-old, I can look at that and be like, that's fucked up. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And that just seems like, eye test wise, that it's a large contributing factor as to why people are so fucking fat as adults. Because when they're infants, their brain is getting, okay, this is what we get to survive. This is what we need. And then as they get older, I mean, it's addicting. It is literally addicting. As I said, for years, I'm still finding myself craving sugar to the point where I am actively counter eating additional sugars, because I don't like it. I don't like how it makes me feel. It gives me headaches. Makes me just feel bad about myself. I'm sure it's not as bad for me as I tell myself that it is, but for years I've been trying to counter that, and I can't, because my brain is still being like, you need these additional sugars or you're going to fucking die. You need to give your body these things, and you don't. Like, the fact is, you do not need to give your body additional sugars than what you can just get from food that has natural sugars.
I agree. That's something that I'm very grateful, actually, to my parents, that I was raised in a house with very little sugar. It's something I haven't really thought about until now, but we never really had any, like, we still had orange juice, I guess. Like, it wasn't a staple of anyone's diet, but it existed within the house. Most of what we just drank was like water or milk. There was no soda. I didn't actually drink soda until I was an adult. Very little in the way of dessert or anything like that. And if we did, it was, a home-baked apple pie or something similar. And like, I wasn't the most in shape kid in the world, but I'd see other kids. They needed that chocolate bar. They needed to have a Coke, something like that. And I just thought it was weird and kind of insane. And the first time I ever tried Coca-Cola, it was too sweet for me. I couldn't handle it.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same. It's very similar for me, and there's nothing wrong with having like an apple pie every once in a while. There's nothing wrong with indulging. Like I said, we get ice cream from Cold Stone Creamery once a month, and it's great. I love it. Tastes great. I like ice cream, but I limit myself to, like I said, like once a month, because I know how bad it is.
Well, it's that thing, everything within reason.
Yeah, one thing
we live in a culture that, like, you have an indulgence that you, like an itch you want to scratch, you have something that you want, you get it immediately. You get that like bulk pack of chocolate bars that you really like delivered on Amazon. You don't even have to go outside. It'll be on your doorstep within 24 to 48 hours. You want to go, you got to go get your prescription from the pharmacist. You just go through the drive-through. You never step foot outside of your house unless you're going to your car, you're going to work. You want something, you get it like that.
Did I ever tell you about how I can't eat fried foods?
No, you give me shit for eating fried foods, which I find very funny. But now that I know that you can't eat it, fuck you.
Well, I mean, I can. I just feel like garbage afterwards. But I have a theory.
Have you tried air fried stuff?
No, I refuse. I just don't.
Well, I have an air fryer, and I just use like a teaspoon of avocado oil. Like fuck seed oils.
Seed oils. I mean, that's a whole nother topic. But
yeah,
for me as a kid, I was never allowed, like we never went to McDonald's. We never went to Burger King. Like I had my first Taco Bell when I was like a senior in high school, and we were coming home from a concert and it was the only thing that was open, and I got sick afterwards. But yeah, we didn't even make fried foods at home. So I went literally my entire life without having any type of no French fries. If they were French fries, we baked them. We bake everything, or we stovetop things. So like we would bake our French fries. We would bake our chicken. We would still bread things. Like you can, Athena, we would still like bread our chicken. And you could we would make homemade chicken tenders. It's something I do now. I think I tell you about it. I make my own breadcrumbs.
Yeah, you mentioned that. It's clever.
Yeah, and we'll make our own chicken tenders here. We never had like fried food, and I never had fried food until, believe it or not, I was in the Army, and we went to the Infantry Museum. And while we were at the Infantry Museum, you were allowed to order food. And it was like your first like non-DFAC food in like months. But on top of that, I had never even tried fried food up until this point.
That's actually quite impressive.
Yeah, I was 17 or 18 when I had it. I was 17 because I was in basic training, I think. Anyways, I got wings, and I forgot to specify, because anytime I would order wings, it's like I need them baked. I can't get wings unless they're baked because they make me sick.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. My theory is like frying it in the oils and like with the breading, like it just doesn't. My body after not having it for so long is like, what the fuck is this garbage? Like it's bad for you. Like this makes you feel like shit, and now you deserve to feel like shit. That's my theory. But I got wings, and I didn't specify like, hey, are they baked or fried? And it turned out they were fried. But I'm like, fuck it, this smells so good, I'm gonna eat them. I was throwing up, shitting my fucking pants. Like I had diarrhea. It was miserable the first time I had fried food. But I went my entire, like I said, until I was 17 years old or 17 or 18. I never had fried food, and I felt great. And now as an adult, I just avoid it. I'm like, I know it makes me feel like shit. I know it's terrible for me. So why am I going to get it?
Yeah.
And I avoid it, and it's great. I'm happy. I'm very happy that like it makes me feel like dog shit. Because if I ever have it again, it's that reminder again of like, hey, this is terrible for you. Like, don't eat it anymore. So I'm like, I just don't have fried food.
No, I feel the same way about like Coca-Cola or anything like that. I'm not going to holier than thou about how terrible Coca-Cola is. I guess I'm doing it now. But
this is all about fat people shaming. You can be holier than thou because we are holier than fat people.
I'm going to preface this with like, fuck so many documentaries of this format. Like Super Size Me, all that is just trash. It's just garbage. So much of that movie was faked. Like none of the numbers add up, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But I saw a film a little while ago, and this is verifiable. Like, to their credit, everything was done well. And, I hate to be the, trust science person, but, a lot of history and what we see around you, trust your senses enough to see around you cause and effect. It follows a man. The movie's called That Sugar Film, and it follows a man who eats kind of like a paleo diet, at home with his wife who cooks very. They don't really have any processed sugar, and he endeavors to eat the average amount of sugar that a man eats. But his caveats are he still has to exercise half an hour a day. He can't exceed 2,000 calories. he can't exceed the amount of average sugar, and he can only get it from healthy products like Blue Label, what you find at the grocery store, like, oh yes, reduced sugar, oh healthy, so and so. And like over the month where he's still exercising, he's lifting weights, he's going for a run every day, he's not eating what seems like a healthy or an extravagant amount of food, and like you see the difference in his skin. His flesh gets saggy and kind of pallid. He looks terrible. His moods get worse. He starts to have mood swings. His sleeping goes to hell. And I can trust the effects of this particular quote unquote study. It's not scientific. It's a documentary, and it is meant for, again, entertainment. But I had the exact same ones, and I know so many people who had the exact same side effects for suddenly introducing even quote healthy unquote sugar into their diet, or and this isn't even Coca-Cola or anything like that.
Well, soda, it's like it's syrup, and it's like condensed fucking flavoring and condensed sugar that's meant to be diluted with water. But even then, like, you dilute it and it still contains so much nasty shit for you.
It does.
It's I'm not a soda guy either. That's, like I said, one of my favorite things about my upbringing, besides being handed a gun at a very young age, was like, yeah, you don't need fucking soda. You're not going to go get fast food and you'll be fine. And then like things, as I've grew up as an adult, like I don't like cake. Which I get weird looks whenever I go to parties, and like I'm the only one like not eating cake, but I'm like, yeah, I don't like it, and I'm happy I don't like it. Yeah, and it's the same thing with fried food. I'm happy I can't eat it without getting sick. And I can't remember the last time I had, actually, it was recently. It was a couple months ago. I had my first soda in years, and I drank like a quart of it, and I'm like, I can't even drink more. And I'm happy. I'm happy that happened. I'm happy my body and my mind is like, it's like, hey, retard, stop putting this shit in your body. You've lived your entire life having like bare minimum of it, and it's been great. Don't start now. And I'm very happy that my body has this reaction, because I don't even know why I got that soda. It was just a weird thing. We were out somewhere, and for whatever reason, I got a can. I don't even remember what it was. Dr. Pepper maybe. And I drank like a quarter of it, and my body was like, hey, stop fucking drinking this. And I'm like,
yeah, you fucking retard.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll stop drinking this. I don't know why I feel in the first place.
Like once you reintroduce something, your body tells you it's not good unless you get used to it. Your body will tell you.
Well, that's the problem, is that people are used to it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they wonder why they're not losing weight.
Yeah. I would challenge everyone listening to this to just like cut out sugar for a week and see what happens. First few days suck.
Natural sugar's fine.
I'd say cut most sugar cold turkey. Yeah, like have a fucking apple or a banana or whatever. But
okay. I thought you were saying like even natural sugar. I've never tried.
It's easier to say that than processed sugar. Just using the word as a do-all. But yeah, like people's diets are so important. You are what you eat. Like it's not just a phrase.
Yeah.
But again, it's like it's highlighting the failures of fucking bureaucracy. It's highlighting the failures of culture. God, this is depressing.
Yeah, and I really want to emphasize too, I am not a fucking physical specimen. I am not some dietary expert, but I feel fucking great.
Yeah.
I feel great. And it shouldn't be like frowned upon to say things like, hey, cake is bad for you. You don't need to eat cake. Like if you're eating cake, like indulge. Every once in a while, like I said, once a month, we'll get ice cream. And it's not like a small cup. We get the biggest fucking thing that Cold Stone offers. I think it's their Love It or Gotta Have It size. And it's this huge fucking cup. And I load it with toppings, and it's fucking great. I love it. I'm not saying and I'm not even saying what I'm doing is better than anybody else. But I am saying, like, if you cut these things out of your life or you minimize them, you will notice a huge difference for the better in how you feel physically and how you feel mentally.
Yes.
And
100%.
read your fucking labels. Like bread, store like market bread is bad for you. And it sounds strange to say because you're like, oh, but what if I get like the whole grain bread? You have to look at what defines as like whole grain now, or like what defines as wheat, because it's very different to what it was like 50 years ago. The way that the FDA and labels have worked, whole grain doesn't mean like they necessarily used the entire grain like it sounds like. They still bleach it. They do all these, like it's still not good for you. You know, it's probably better for you than the white bread, which is, I think Ireland classified American white bread as cake, actually. I think
no, it is. Even from here to there, when I eat American bread, it's like, this isn't bread.
No, it was Subway bread that they did, Ireland. A court in Ireland declared the bread from Subway, because it's the American version of bread, it's an American chain, as cake, because it had so much sugar compared to what they classified as bread. And we just kind of move those goalposts. So it's like, no, it's bread. It's whole grain bread. What do you mean? Or like the 9 grain honey and oats, like bread. Like that sounds healthy for you. Go look at the ingredients and read the label. And you'll see added sugar. You'll see random shit that you never heard of, like added to bread. Yeah. It's strange. Like they even did it with salt. I know Chris Geraldo's a big salt guy.
Yes. His pink Himalayan salt.
Yeah, he's a big salt guy.
He's fun. We need to get him again.
Yeah, we need to get it. We had an episode recorded with him, but he said he's changed his view. We'll get him on again. But
yeah, I'm very curious. I like the guy a lot, and his gym advice has really, really helped me.
Dude, it's weird what's in salt too. Like you think, oh, salt, it's salt. It's not just fucking salt. I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna go grab. Actually, Nathan, you talk. I'm gonna walk 10 feet. I'm gonna grab a thing of salt that I have, and I'm gonna read you the ingredients.
What am I supposed to talk about?
I don't know.
The Industrial Revolution's consequences have been disaster for the human race. They've greatly increased the life expectancy of those of us who live in advanced countries, but they've destabilized society, have made life unfulfilling, have subjected human beings to indignities, have led to widespread psychological suffering in the third world, physical suffering as well, and have inflicted severe damage on the natural world. God, okay, it's been over 10 seconds and you're still gone. So guys, how about the FBI's failure in stopping that shooting? Probably because they created the shooter, eh?
No. So you can get like iodide salt and non-iodide salt. In this case, I have iodide salt. So there's obviously salt and iodide. And then there is yellow prussiate of soda, which I guess is a anti-caking agent for salt. It's fucking salt. Why do I need yellow prussiate of soda in there? What is yellow prussiate of soda? It says it's an anti-caking agent.
Clearly, it's an anti-caking agent.
Why though?
Because you don't want your salt to cake, Mitch. That's what it does.
It doesn't cake.
Your bread is already caked. Do you want your salt to be caked too?
Dude, I don't understand. Like even obviously, yellow prussiate of soda probably has next to no negative health effects whatsoever. Good or bad.
They say that.
But you look at, things like your bread or your peas and you'll be surprised what's in there. Like I was surprised when I looked at a salt label and didn't just see salt.
Yeah. Oh man, the amount of people I talk to about like, yeah, just check your ingredients, and they're like, hey, what am I supposed to look for? What? Really? Like I don't know how to read this. It's about as simple fucking gets.
Yeah, I mean the first ingredients are the most prominent. If you're getting something that's like wheat bread, if the first ingredient isn't wheat, like you probably aren't getting what you think you're getting.
Yeah. Or if like you're buying a can of peas and you see high fructose corn syrup in it, it's probably a fucking problem.
Yeah,
or if you buy something ostensibly healthy, like, oh yes, this health drink, lose weight, so and so, and you look and it's like carbohydrates, 70 grams, 65% of which are sugar. Probably not great for you either.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious if you're listening to this at this point and you're like near, like you're in your home, go grab like a can, or I don't know, just go grab something and look at the ingredients. And if you could actually let us know, maybe message us or comment if you want. I'm kind of
Yeah.
curious, like what's some shit in there that you
Yeah.
just wouldn't expect?
Fucking
Or you have no
commented
idea
on
what it is.
the art for this, I guess, or
Yeah, comment.
Yeah,
That's
that-
cool. Help our algorithm out a little bit. Comment, like, subscribe.
I hate that shit, Mitch. Fuck off. Oh no,
Message us. I'm
um,
just curious. I'm curious about all the
yeah.
things that are around you that you guys don't know about.
yeah.
in your
I'm
food.
entirely thinking of like, don't message us because we get so fucking many. I mean, like, do message us. Just don't send. We're going to get a flood of like all the ingredients and like everything
Yeah,
in our
that's
message
true.
box, and that would kind of slow things down even more than they're slowed down.
All right, put it in the comments and help our algorithm and help us grow a little bit. Then
Oh, you're
and
fucking.
we'll do it under the guise of we don't want to flood our DMs.
You're the one who thinks about that. Ugh. Algorithms. Hate algorithms. Instagram should just go back to being chronological.
I'm also fucking retarded though, and I'll see things like ingredients and people like know what they are, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that's totally normal. Like, that's not an additive. That's just a part of the food." And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that is, so it's weird. I'm
Yeah.
a big eye test
And
guy.
again, like compare ingredients in things from things in other countries where people are ostensibly more healthy to, and again, there's a lot of factors. So, everything has nuance and no one wants to talk about that anymore. But yeah, compare things in other countries and, fuck a lot of Europe, but like look at their ingredients and the same things that you can buy here and compare them. And the ingredients lists are half as long. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, like I was saying in the beginning, there's a reason why all these French models can consume a fuck ton of carbs and still be super fucking hot. It's because their carbs aren't loaded up with a ton of sugar and things that make you fat.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why.
And they fucking walk. They walk.
Yeah, and they walk.
Yeah. They do
I think they have
things.
drive-thrus. I remember being in Paris and hating it, but I think they have a drive-thru
Yeah.
like somewhere.
Dude, I remember when we started getting like drive-through ATMs here, and they're still not the norm. They're like, you kind of got to go to your way to use them. But it was, people were like, why the fuck would anyone need this? And now they're pretty, like, I don't want to say common. They're usually in, business parks and whatnot. But like the idea of going to a drive-through bank and then talking to a teller from your car, it's bizarre to me. Not ragging on it, just bizarre. Bizarre is neither positive nor negative on its own.
Yeah. Well, you got any closing words?
Yeah, I really want to know why immediately after we found out more about the subway shooter in New York, why it immediately dropped off of all media. Why it stopped being covered? Because I got a few questions about that, eh?
It sounds like an episode that you can do on BR's podcast and not ours.
It sounds like that, but I just want people to think about it. I wonder why. I wonder why it just went away. I wonder why he was on the FBI's watch list for so long, posting stuff about killing people, and then he did it in when New York has a police force and a metro police force that's larger than Canada's entire military. I wonder. Just a thought.
It is kind of funny, isn't the New York police force the 7th largest army in the world?
I've heard that. I don't know how true it is. How many police
Or budget.
in
I think
New
it's the
York?
budget. It is kind of funny as well how the cameras in that specific subway just weren't working.
How many police officers? Yeah. Oh yeah. Why did all the cameras die? Huh?
Strange. I
Really
think
strange.
Hold on.
Really strange.
NYPD 7th.
3,500 officers for the subways alone.
So then it might be. What's the?
They're doubling that.
I guess that's not true. The 7th largest global army would actually be Vietnam with 321 soldiers. NYPD is only 33,000. I think it's the budget.
55,000 people total if we're going to count like non-combative. Because like normally when you count a standing army, you count the clerks and the cooks too.
Is it their budget?
Let's find out.
They have a 10.
About $6 billion in 2020.
I saw 10.9 billion.
Okay, apparently their budget in 2020 was $6 billion, but their actual spending exceeded it.
This is why we
Maybe it's
need.
gone up.
This is why we need you, BR, to be in our fucking studio so you can be our Jamie, so we don't have to sit here at the end weird.
Just sitting here, both of us on our laptops, just checking fucking Google to see how many cops there are in New York. There's a fucking lot.
Okay, so it is the 33rd largest military spender in the planet. If the NYPD counted as a military, it'd be the 33rd.
Jesus Christ. Yeah. But yeah, no, there's a lot of questions. A lot of questions, especially why all the cameras were down as well. Who's Epstein's lawyer again? The cameras went down for him too when he died.
Yeah, and why'd he decide to drop the gun, his credit card, and just leave it there so he could be found? Why'd he call and tell on himself? Because I heard he did that too.
Yeah, and they didn't get him for, I think, another 24 hours.
Yeah. Strange things I don't know the answer to.
Yeah, I wonder. I think we'll never know.
It wasn't with the ghost gun, so I'm a little less skeptical, I think, than you. There was no ghost gun. There was no
ghost gun.
It was a legally purchased Glock that he purchased, I believe, in Ohio.
But he was also a convicted felon.
No, he wasn't convicted. He was charged.
He was found guilty of terroristic threats and something else.
I thought he didn't have a felony.
What was the dude's name again? New York shooter, terroristic threats. Yeah, 1995.
What's his name?
Frank James.
What a weird name.
It's two first names.
It's two first names.
Yeah.
Frank James.
Everyone's a tizzy about that. Beretta is... They just made a pink gun release for this famous Jeffree Star, James something. I can't remember. Just some famous gay icon. Beretta made a limited edition pistol for him, and I'm seeing all sorts of shit about that in just my timeline, and I don't care. I just don't care.
No, he was never convicted of a felony.
Oh. I'm reading about it right now. He other did make arrests.
A terrorist threat charge, but...
Yeah, he was charged and found guilty. Oh, he was found guilty of harassment. He wasn't found guilty of the terroristic threats. That's a misdemeanor, so that tracks.
Yeah.
Live now to Action News investigative reporter Chad Perdelli.
Oh, God. Oh, God. ABC, shut up.
We need a Jamie. Come be our Jamie.
Yeah, when we have our studio. Well, you need to be there, too.
Yeah.
We need to all be there. But
I'll do it.
Yeah, thanks for listening, everybody. I know the last 5 minutes were just fucking random, but
I think people come for the last 5 minutes. I think a lot of people just skip through to hear us talk about foreskins and the government.
Dad advice.
Wait, are you asking me for fucking dad advice?
Yeah, dad advice.
Definitely don't check. My dad advice: definitely don't check to see if the cameras went down when Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer Jean-Luc Brunel killed himself in prison. The spoiler: the cameras went down. What else? Okay, actual dad advice: don't feed your kids poison. Stop feeding them Coca-Cola. Stop feeding them crushed up Oreos. I went most of my life, as a kid, there'd be a treat. My dad would take me to McDonald's once every 2 months or something. I'd get a tiny cheeseburger and give them the pickles off of it. Stop teaching kids that this is okay to do all the time. There's treats, and then there's overindulgence. And I honestly think that overindulging children who don't know any better, I think it's abuse. Don't fucking do it. Raise your kids like you would have wanted to be raised.
Yeah, if you feed your kids crushed up Oreos and soda, I'm not going to tell you how to parent your kids. I'm just going to think that you're a fucking retard.
Yes, 100%.
And if
not
you're
in the good way
morbidly
you want.
obese,
we're retards, you're something else.
Yeah, and if you're morbidly obese and you're trying to say that it's healthy, you're also a fucking retard, and
yes.
You need to get help and go out, work on your diet, and exercise a little bit, and you will be a much happier and healthier individual than you think you actually are.
Yeah. But Mitch, you got to watch out for the big girls.
No, I don't.
No, you fucking don't.
No. If you don't respect yourself, I'm not going to respect you.
Yes.
You still deserve all the same inalienable rights as everybody else, but that also includes me saying that you're a fucking retard, you're fat, and you're disgusting, and I don't really like you.
Can I add one last thing?
Sure.
I don't know why I'm asking permission. I'm just going to fucking do it regardless of what you said. I really appreciate when people message us and say hey, thanks to the fat shaming, or thanks to whatever, thanks to your motivation, I have lost X amount of weight. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I'm trying to get healthy. Thank you. I appreciate it so fucking much. Kings. That's all.
Yeah.
Like-
if you're working on it, dude, you're fucking awesome. Or dudette.
Yeah.
If you're actively working on it, I have the utmost respect. I hope you fucking crush it. Even if you're
100%
just starting. If you are a fat, morbidly disgusting, obese fuck right now when you're listening to this, and in 5 minutes you go out and you make a conscious effort and decision to start it, my hatred for you completely goes away. And now I just have the utmost respect for you, because it's very hard. It's difficult to do, especially when you've gotten that far and you're taking the first steps to actually become a healthier individual, and you're going to be around for a lot longer than you would be if you wouldn't. So I do appreciate that, and I respect the living fuck out of you once you just even think about starting that process.
Yes.
So appreciate you, unless you're not thinking about it and you're fine with being disgusting.
Yes, absolutely. Also, Timothy McVeigh flew drugs for the CIA, according to him. And also the person who was arrested and convicted for making the bomb that he used said that they were working for the FBI.
I have no idea who Timothy McVeigh is, so okay, bye.